Hey, what are you up to there?
Yeah, I'm filming uh, a mukbang video for the intro bit for my next video.
What's mukbang?
It's where you eat a ungodly amount of food for the viewers' entertainment. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot.
Yep.
And you're doing this for a bit?
Yeah.
Why don't you just do a video where like you talk about doing a mukbang video? It could be like a whole meta thing, and you could throw Danny Grem in there. Yeah, throw me in there.
No, no. The people the people don't like Danny Graham.
Well, all right. Good luck with what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
What's up, everybody? I am back. It's Elio, once again playing the Alter Trading card game. Today we are going to be eating. We will be feasting on our opponent's thoughts and dreams, because today we are playing Akesha Mukbang. The idea of this deck is to cheat. Feast of Thoughts is a cheaper Winter Nova-like card that can do it all. Delete your opponent's reserve, flood the board with units, and fill your hand. And the secret of this is that if you cast it from reserve and remove fleeting from it, it keeps the counters from reserve. That's right, it's in the rules, that's how it works. So, we make sure that we have lots of ways to repeatedly do that. The stage lets us repeatedly feast, and characters like Lady of the Lake let us use support abilities to get repeated casts. In that light, we use all of our unique slots on this ability. There's a plethora of card choices available with this, including every copy of Lady of the Lake that you can find, 2 of which I got off the market and showed off in my Lindaway video, as well as an Ortis Cadets that I cracked open at my LGS. The Cadets is particularly sweet because in addition to the support ability, it also lets me put the Feast directly into reserve. But sometimes Feast is too dangerous for us to go for, or it just gets sabotaged. And with that, we want plays that still benefit from our loose, fleeting game plan. License Withdrawal is an amazing removal spell in the new set that often acts as a 2-mana banishing gate. Getting repeated casts off of it, especially versus popular heroes like Teija, is just crushing. Spycraft is a classic spell that I love being able to play. Rather than the popular Tooth Fairy, we're trying to craft our opponent's reserve away and hopefully end up with something better than a 2-mana 1/1/1 reserve on our side. You also sometimes just need to get off some one-off spells in your deck and let them pull double duty when they're good in the matchup. Things like Banishing Gate or things like Blizzard aren't great versus everything, but when you want them, sometimes you want them twice. Add in some staple spells like Off You Go and Magical Training, and boy, you got a stew cooking. Then we finish off with some cheap utility things. Rhyme Frost to stall and disrupt, Sleight of Hand to help get Feast of Thoughts in reserve while getting extra cast out of things like Magical Training and Off You Go. And we've got so many spells that we're trying to cast, and we're trying to keep some of them in reserve like Feast, so to prevent overflowing, Scholar's Vault serves nicely. If you have uniques that care about having landmarks, this ensures that you have a landmark out between this and the stage. We can't run only spells though, and we need to compete on the battlefield if for no other reason than to block our opponent. Baba Yaga is an obvious choice, but really what I'm looking for are things that are cheaper from reserve than they are from hand, like Baba is. Kadgiran Alchemist, Mage Dancer, these things can be resupplied with Spycraft or Scholar's Vault and are easy to cast. We want them to cast so that we get value, and so having cheap things can be critical. For the last 2 cards in the deck, we have Scribbling Starfish and Merlin. Starfish is more expensive from reserve, but it's only 1 mana from hand, and it's such great value so much of the time, often being a 3/3/3 for 2 mana from reserve. It's also really hard to find good 1-drops from hand in Ysmir. And then finally, Merlin, I'm not sure how I feel about him right now. So often we want to cast spells, and the Banishing Gate can just feel better as a result, but also the ability to destroy something and put power on the lane in just 1 card can be very clutch. That's it. That's the deck. Let's jump into some games. Okay, up against Teija. I would love to keep this stage, Feast, and something else here. Could do the Starfish and take a lane. Though we're going first next turn. They usually, Sneaser Shroom and stuff like that's a little bit less popular than it used to be. Like it's often that something is getting into reserve. That turn 1 versus Teija, I'm finding. especially like a Moona Druid or a Moona Caregiver, something that can give anchor in the future. So maybe I take the Spycraft, and with that, I can start building counters on the stage. Also, maybe I just open up with Feast of Thought, either take a lane or draw a card, and then next turn I start staging and I can try to use that to build counters. I'm not going to block a lane with the Starfish. You know, sometimes versus heroes, you can block a lane with a 1/1/1, but that's not really going to happen versus Teija, and I am going to be the slower person in this matchup, so I definitely want to keep Feast and Stage, and I'll keep a Spycraft for the third. And they play a Kodama, most likely to be like a festival deck if they're playing something sleepy. And so I'll open up with the Feast of Thoughts, use my mana efficiently, and rather than try to take a lane, I'm just going to draw a card. There's that Caregiver. I don't need 2 stages, so I'll put 1 back. And I'll go ahead and open up with the stage rather than after Ewing, because if they play something worth anchoring, I want to be able to Spycraft it immediately while also getting a counter on the stage, and so I can't really afford to after you there. I've got Off You Go on the mind, because since they just played this out, I will just 100% Off You Go this. I'm kind of fine with this. Things are moving 1 turn at a time, which if it keeps moving at that rate, that's 7 turns before I can turn things around. There's not a lot of sabotage in Teija. People were playing the Little Mouse, and that's becoming... I'm going to drop one of these Alchemists. It's becoming not as popular as right when the set came out. I think it's a great card, and I think more people should be running the Little Mouse. But I'm feeling safe again with my reserve against Teija. And here, rather than let them build up resources, I'll just immediately Off You Go that with the 4 mana from reserve. It's not often that like you feel okay casting that side in the early game, and so I'll gladly take the opportunity to trade 4 for 4 on the mana there, get a counter on everything, and just move forward. License Withdrawal is amazing versus Teija. I think I want to get rid of one of these characters. The draw actually like isn't super critical right now, but what I actually like more is that the backside can compete and block lanes. And so I'll get rid of the Alchemist. And I'll open up with Spycraft on the Kodama so they don't get a 2-mana 3/3/3. They are running Sneeze a Shroom, Rare Sneeze a Shroom. Now I can finally use Akesha's ability and After You and see what they're up to. A Caregiver on the left, I'll easily match with his Cadets, and to take a lane, I can put a fleeting card in the reserve, basically for free. They play Ogun on the right, which makes this License Withdrawal a little bit less appealing since it's no longer going to be blocking the lane, but I think I still want to get rid of this anchored card permanently. They can take the lane, but this won't be sticking around forever. I am going to use the stage to do that because, again, this is just absolutely nuts versus Teija. Most of the things that they're playing cost 3 or less. Everything, the first thing they play is always boosted. And so it really just makes things a huge pain for them. And then finally, I will go ahead and Magical Training and just plan on discarding the Magical Training. But this gets counters on my things. I'm at the point now when I'm probably going to start having to Feast of Thoughts, or using Feast of Thoughts. That's probably this turn, but we'll see what they do. We do have a Starfish, so we can put back one of these Alchemists. But they didn't mana. So like if I Feast of Thoughts, I get 6, so I get Sabotage, Sabotage, that leaves 4, 2 there, and I could do 2 there. Oh wait, I don't have the counters on the stage yet. Okay, so I'm not going to Feast of Thoughts yet. I'll just open up with License Withdrawal, get rid of this Drac, and then next turn I'll go ham with the Feast of Thoughts. I'm going to be playing 2 things this turn. I'll play the more expensive from hand one with the Mage Dancer on the right, and then I'll match with the Baba Yaga on the left. Similar to my thinking with the Alchemist, I'd rather just have the thing that's inherently bigger the Mage Dancer will often become a 2/2/2, but that relies on me casting it first in the turn. And like on turns like this, I want to open up with Feast of Thoughts. Like I want to immediately sabotage and then get to work. I'll get rid of the Alchemist though because of everything I've been saying. Here though, we can stage, we can feast everything that they have, or sabotage everything that they have, and then we'll even out our Maws and draw a card. No reason to put more power into one of the lanes. I mean, I will likely be following up the character in the other one, but I'd rather just draw the card. Note that the better sequencing and things like that is to technically draw first. Maybe draw something that makes you feel away. I got this Scholar's Vault. I'll just after you here, see what they have to do. But that's an easy thing to get rid of. I'm just going to off you go that. Or, wait, I don't need to off you go that. At this point, I can just take the lane, give that fleeting, and then next turn I'll off you go it. Prevents him from immediately recasting it this turn. I don't get rid of Baba. The other thing is that like I need this remove fleeting effect in order to cast Feast of Thoughts again, so I could off you go to get one of those counters, but Lady is also just the counter in itself. There's a Lyra Festival. I don't, with our off you go, they won't be able to go off this turn, but I am going to want to start drawing and trying to find either the Banishing Gate or a Merlin, but also just having off you go available will make it so that it's more difficult for them to go off. But I'll basically do what I did last time, but I only have one thing to sabotage, so I can draw 2 this time. And I'm going to be planning on using off you go on the right. Though, if they don't follow up with anything, then I can just use a Starfish. And there's a Merlin and a Blizzard. Both those are going to be great answers versus the stage. So do I want to off you... I could Starfish and take it. If I off you go, I get the counter on the stage to immediately make it reusable. I do use the off you go. I think the better thing is probably to use the Starfish so I have the off you go in hand. I don't need to cast the Feast of Thoughts more than one time anymore anyway. I'm just going to Feast of Thoughts for like 10 and 4 and go from there. But we'll be able to Feast of Thoughts and have Merlin as removal for the festival, so that should be easily enough to win the game from here. GG. Okay, up against Gulrang. Pretty good hand, lots of options. What I'm looking at here is the cadets, the training, the feast, and the stage. I'm somewhat intrigued by the Scholar's Vault, but like not so much with these other cards. One thing that like could be done with this hand is a stage followed by a cadets putting the Feast of Thoughts in reserve. But also, Gulrang is really slow, and they can get some early advances with like Mobile Armory, but they're not getting to the full 7 advances they need super fast usually, which gives me time to set up, which also means I just want to like draw cards in those turns that I can. So I think rather than keep the stage, I'm going to keep Feast of Thoughts and Magical Training, and then Ortis Cadets will be my way of having fleeting at least initially. Yeah, let's try that. Opponent draws 1, and like we can't like cadet and magical training without overflowing, so we're just gonna feast to draw 1 ourselves. So they drew 2, we're drawing 1. And I'm drawing rather than making a mana moth because like as said, I wanna set myself up for big future turns. The thing that is most like damaging to my game plan out of Gulrang is like Monolith Legate, which I can't with off you go. I'll put back one of these off you goes. But also, like, they have to set up a little bit since it's not defensive, or it's not sabotaging by itself. And they usually don't run as many Order Spies, which gives my reserve to be a little bit safer. But I'll open up with an After You. They do a Mobile Armory, which I probably won't try to answer, but I'll start with a Magical Training. I'm just going to Magical Training again, and let them have these 2 advances this turn. This is getting our Feast of Thoughts up to the point where on like the 6 mana turn, we can probably just cast it for almost maximum value with the Cadet, which will let us turn around to a big comeback. I do like the gate against like the new 4 mana Muskrat landmark, so I'll keep that, and I'll get rid of the Alchemist. This is like a turn where if they don't open up with Armory, I could potentially Rime Frost. But there's no need to do that. They just draw with Conjuring Seal, in which case I'm just going to do more Magical Training. And then, because next turn I can cast off this, I'll play one of my fleeting things, Lady of the Lake, to be mana efficient, and I'll discard the Magical Training at end of turn. Get rid of Mage Dancer. Now I'm going to open up with Lady of the Lake into Feast of Thoughts. Definitely going to Sabotage, which leaves 5 things. If they have Aegis Templar, it only has 2 green. So that's like one of their ways to advance on these turns. I think rather than going 4 power draw, I'll go 2 power, 6 power draw. This makes it, in their token 2/2 defender heavy deck that, it's easier for them to put 2 things in each lane with like even the common card from Beyond the Gates that makes 2 tokens in each lane. And if they do that, they're going to have Defender, and they're not going to be advancing. So I'm rather going to stack one lane and try to get an advance out of it, and then have the other lane forcing action. I could have also put 4 power in this lane, but I do want to continue drawing and making sure I have tons of things available to me. And that's fine. So they use Lock the Cards, they do advance, they block us, but we are still with our Feast of Thoughts, and usually they don't have a lot of Sabotage available. Now, the only thing is that I don't have a way to get rid of fleeting on this right now. I'll get rid of Off You Go here. I have another one. It's really just like Legate that I'm worried about. And I'll stall a little bit with Rime Frost on the Sunisa. Ideally, what I'm doing this turn is... Okay, so they Muskrat. Can I answer this Muskrat? I want to get Cadet in the reserve. So I'll let them advance on left, I'll Cadet on the right, and then I can either Merlin or Banishing Gate to get rid of this. I'll do the Merlin because I can later maybe get multiple cast out of the Banishing Gate, and I won't be able to do that with the Merlin. And the Banishing Gate will also later maybe like put counters on Starfish or something. But we'll keep Feast and Cadet, and we can open up with a Cadet Feast, Sabotage, and we have so many cards now, we'll just make 6 power in each lane. And then we have a fleeting thing to follow up with, so we can get rid of one of the Spycrafts, especially with the Sabotage that we have from Feast of Thoughts. We open up with it just in case they do have like an Ortis Spy, plus we want to Sabotage to begin with, but we'll after this to see. They play a Muskrat, another Muskrat. I have to get this lady out so that I can cast this again. But I am gonna maybe want to use this Banishing Gate soon to get rid of these. Or at the very least, we can try to just be advancing on one lane. I don't know, it's hard to... This is not in a position, like, things are well positioned for them to stay tied or be threatening games. But I'll get rid of the Scholars Vault here, and I have Blizzard, which can answer an entire lane pretty well. I have lots of removal for like 1 token at a time, but really like I'm just counting on this Feast of Thoughts doing lots of work, and then if there is any sort of Legate, I need to make sure that gets answered. I want to stall more, so I'll open up with the Starfish. And they pass. So yeah, I can just Feast and take these lanes. We can go forward. And no reason to cast anything. Like I could Spycraft looking for the 3rd lady, but I also might want to like open up with Spycraft. It's a pretty gambly play to do that. We're only 1 lane away now, so we can put all of our power into 1 lane. So we actually probably don't want to open up with Spycraft. We'll get rid of one of the Babas. We'll dodge the Sabotage by opening up with Feast of Thoughts and just go all in the left lane. And that'll put us up 10 power. And then from there, we have an Off You Go or a License Withdrawal. We have an After You. And then we have a Starfish that'll probably be a 3/3/3 for 2. The Nisa's going to be 5 power. We can After You. Going to be another 4-ish power. I'll withdraw on a token rather than off you going the Sunisa, so that I can't just recast a Sunisa for another 5 power. But we do have the off you go on their biggest thing, our Starfish, if necessary. But they don't have the power to come back from this this threat of 17. So that's GG. Okay, up against Akesha. I definitely like to just draw tons of cards in the mirror. And so I do not want to put back one of these magical trainings. And then from there, I'd rather contest a lane with a Starfish than try to answer something with one of these removal spells. This has a much better return rate on it. So keep the Starfish, open up with After You. They empty, we'll empty. Scholar's Vault, getting a unique Alchemist. I could magical training again, or I could take the lane while I can and start growing this Starfish. I do want to start make movement against Akesha. I don't know what their build is, but Akesha is going to have a lot of Starfish or Sabotage themselves often. So my main game plan of Feast of Thought is not going to be super reliable, and they may have a less vulnerable endgame, and so I do want to take points while I can. While also taking card advantage and not expect to try to rely on my Feast of Thoughts game plan. Instead, I want to take points and take card advantage where I can. I'll get rid of Off You Go. The 4-mana backside just makes it so inefficient in a matchup where I'm trying to cast everything twice. And I'll Magical Training. They play a Stage, so looks like they may be on Feast of Thoughts. So I'll just cast Starfish left, which for 2 mana, there's not much that will counter. And lets us efficiently spend our mana. Definitely going to keep this Spycraft versus the Stage. And all these other cards are more effective of where I just want cheap things to put onto the board rather than After You, rather than necessarily the big expensive Alchemist from hand. They open up with a card draw, that's fine. I'll do some of my own magical training. I don't want to magical training from hand and then Baba from hand, so that's not a sequence I'm going to do where I'm going to overflow. So I'll just MT from reserve, and then I have all these 2-cost things available, or magical training plus Starfish. There's a Feast of Thoughts. I'm not going to sabotage that immediately. If they spend 6 mana to do the no mode, the nothing mode, that's totally fine. So I'll just magical training again and Starfish on the right and trade lanes again. Now, they have Feast of Thoughts, which can sabotage. Our Feast of Thoughts can sabotage. So from here, I want to be sabotaging their game plan. I want to make sure that I have the Spycraft available to me, and I have, in a pinch, Feast of Thoughts to sabotage. Again, I don't want to go for the Feast of Thoughts game plan here because they're likely to have their own Spycrafts, their own Feast of Thoughts, and maybe Tooth Fairies as well. And so it's hard to get counties built up on this. But I am okay maybe using this as a 3-mana sabotage in an emergency. So I'll keep that for now. And I can get rid of Scholar's Vault, or I can get rid of these characters. I have plenty of characters right now to fight over lanes, so I'll get rid of the one that doesn't draw in case I need to draw to find another answer for something. But I can do that and see, yeah, there's a Tooth Fairy. They have so much sabotage that, again, they're probably running Spycrafts that me trying to go for Feast of Thoughts plan A is just so risky. I'll Scholar's Vault here. They get rid of the Vault. I'm fine with that. And now that we did get this lady, I can basically keep 2 Spycraft. I want to get rid of that. So I don't care about this License Withdrawal. I can Spycraft this next turn, or Feast of Thoughts at next turn. I want to get rid of their card advantage. So I'm actually going to Lady Spycraft on the magical training. Normally I would Scholar's Vault here, but I don't want to vault into license withdrawal, so I'll just magical training. I want this just to be a useless card. Also a good reason to put back those alchemists, where this is like, it's one of the few characters that I can hit in the deck. We have Rhymefrost, we have this Spycraft, which we're about to cast. I think that I can, like, it would take them a lot to build up another Feast of Thoughts that I would have time for. So I'm gonna get rid of this Feast now. And I'll open up with the Spycraft before giving them opportunity to get rid of my Spycraft. I got my own license withdrawal, which I can use on their stage. But first I'm just gonna after you. I do think that I'm likely to license withdrawal this turn. No, I mean, I could also Lady and give this fleeting. If I Merlin left, and then I Lady right, then I'll definitely block them on the right, but I might not advance on the right. Whereas if I Merlin right, I'll probably block and advance, and I'd probably advance on the left. And I'd rather take like a 2-1 lead on this turn than a like 0-0 or 1-1. I want to get further towards the end game, because I'm currently like crushing them on card advantage, and I want to push that while I can, rather than let the game go 6 more turns where they have the opportunity to even things out with their own card draws. So I'm going to go Merlin right. And then I can Lady left and give this fleeting. Make both advance, but we're getting rid of more and more of their things. I can get rid of Feast here, actually. We're close to the end. If they try building up another Feast, like, they just don't have the time and cards to actually put counters on it. I'll open up with Vault. I don't want to put bodies on the board and let them know where I'm going, and I'd rather just see more of what's happening. If they want to license withdraw that's fine. I'll trade that 2 mana for 2 mana. I don't want them to be able to use this on anything, so I'm just going to immediately Lady license it. It's not like an amazing Lady target in this deck, in this matchup, but I have another thing to give to remove fleeting from something, and I have no other targets in my hand that are going to be good targets, so I might as well keep this around, and then maybe I get rid of a Khadgar Alchemist or something. I know they run license withdrawal, so I'd rather play that than Alchemist for now, so I'll go Baba right. And then I can Cadets on the left. They have 1 card left if they play it there with Flow. But I'm going to Cadet on the left. I'll put a extra Rhymefrost in reserve just to make sure I have 2 power here and make it a little bit more likely I get the lane. And I do. And I'll discard the Rhymefrost since we already have 1 in hand. I'll get rid of the Alchemist, or the Alchemist for the same contract license removal points as before. There's green on the left, I'll Baba left before they sabotage me. That's fine, we're still winning the lane, and I can after you, or I can Rhyme. No, I don't want to after yet. I'll immediately Rhymefrost this Starfish. They only have 1 card left in hand, that's like really relevant. And then we can after you. There's nothing that's gonna block both lanes for 2 mana. And this Baba will just win. Cool. And GG. That's it. That's the deck, and those are the games. I really enjoy playing this deck. It's a lot of fun. Early on in playing it, I was having trouble getting the Feast game plan off. Often I was ending up with games where I would be able to do a big Feast, but it was just at the end of the game. But as I did more games, it was happening more and more often. So I think like the balance, it does happen a decent amount of the time. And when you do, it can just be incredibly powerful. It's also more resilient to sabotage than you'd expect, not because the Feast itself is resilient, but because the rest of the game plan is perfectly fine. And yeah, I mean, I love playing purple every time I do. I don't know why I don't play Akesha 24/7. Yeah, thank you for watching. Until next time, I am Elio.